Mother's Day is right around the corner, so I thought I'd bring back Lynne Bowman, author of the beautiful cookbook, Brownies for Breakfast. Lynne's a grandmother from California who's in her 70s and knows what it's like to raise a family and spoil grandkids. She's lots of fun, so stay with us.
Welcome to Lean to the Left, home of no-holds-barred commentary, plus interviews with fascinating people, some of them top experts, others simply with interesting stories to tell. You'll never know who'll show up at Lean to the Left. Now here's your host, Bob Gaddy.
Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to thank you for hanging with us on the Lean to the Left podcast, where we focus on important social issues that affect all of us. We're approaching now 10,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, and if you haven't subscribed yet yourself, you should do it so you don't miss out. Comments on both YouTube and on our audio channels like Apple, for example, would really be appreciated and they'd be helpful. A 5-star rating would be awesome if you're up for that. Now, our guest today, Lynne Bowman, has been featured at women's expos throughout the country, speaking on kitchen table culture, community planning, and dealing with diabetes, which she says has been a gift. Now, I've never heard that before. Lynne teamed up with actress Deidre Hall to write and publish Deidre Hall's Kitchen Close-Up in 2010, and Deidre Hall's How Does She Do It in 2012. Previously, she worked with companies like E&J Gallo Winery, where she was creative director, and Rudkin Laboratories, where she was advertising manager. Lynne also held various positions with agencies and clients in San Jose, Los Angeles, and on the East Coast. Lynne's also worked as an actress, a makeup artist, screenwriter, illustrator, legal journalist, and TV weather person. She's the mother of 3 grown kids and has 2 grandchildren. Now, Lynne also shares our Lean to the Left focus politically and has plenty to say about the world in which we are raising our kids today. So we'll talk about some of that too. And of course, we'll talk about her cookbook, Brownies for Breakfast, and about healthy eating, things we can do to stay healthy, and a lot more. I'll tell you, this morning, I was telling Lynne that I wasn't feeling so hot today. I just down, draggy a little bit. And the first thing she said to me was, "What are you eating?" And I told her, and she slapped my wrist and said, "You should be doing this and you should be doing that." I'll take her advice to some extent because I like the stuff I eat. So, hey, Lynne, since this is a pre-Mother's Day show, tell us about your kids and your grandkids.
That's a big order.
How many kids you got? How old are they? What do they do?
Okay. Well, I have 3, and they are all in their late 40s or edging toward late 40s. So they're all in that part of their lives where they're doing too much and stressed out all the time. My oldest, my son, is in North Carolina farming, he just got some land and he's building his place. And one of this generation of new homesteaders, really. The young ones who are thinking differently about food and our food ways and our sources for food. So he and I have long conversations across the country about all that. My middle child is a landscape architect by trade and mother of my granddaughter. Helen's just 15 and in college, I'm happy to say, and that's a whole discussion because COVID turned education upside down. So the kids are having a completely different experience now, many of them, most of them. And some of it is, I don't know, but some of it's good. So that's a thing to talk about. So that's middle child. Her husband is a Silicon Valley guy that I met so many years ago. Before my daughter met him, he was my client. We always have plenty to talk about at the dinner table. And then my youngest child is in Reno, Nevada. A child, I say. She had her first baby at the age of 43, and her baby is now 18 months old. And of course, just fabulous, the most fabulous baby ever. And he and I try to do Facebook Messenger once or twice a day.
Okay.
And so he knows me as this funny person on the screen that blows him kisses and waves and tells stories and so on. But how cool is that?
Oh, it
That
is very
even
cool.
when I couldn't see them all winter because I couldn't drive, anyone who's been seeing the news knows that the Sierra Nevadas were covered in 20 feet of snow all winter.
Mhm.
So there was no way that I could drive over there. So we have our relationship via just like you and me, Bob. It's
Okay.
all virtual, but it's still lovely.
It's cool.
Although
It's
you said
really.
I slapped you. That was a virtual slap.
It was a virtual slap. Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
virtual
you would
slap.
remember it if it weren't.
You know what? It struck me as I was looking through all the things that you've done in your career.
Or the
You
ones
were,
I will admit to anyway. Okay.
what'd you say?
The things that I will admit to in my career. You've
That you
looked.
admit to.
Yeah.
Okay. That are in your little resume that you sent
Yeah.
me that I dutifully read off to the people.
That was
Uh,
really well done, by the way. Thank you.
yeah. Okay. So anyway, you had a lot of jobs. You did a lot of things. TV weather person, actress, all these things that you've done. You were doing that while your kids were growing up. How did you balance all of that, the work life thing, raising kids, having this career? What did it take to do that?
Fear and desperation. And I didn't have a husband. I was a single woman from the time my
Oh,
kids were 2, 3, and 4. So I did not have to worry about my relationship and his career and all that sort of thing. And he wasn't dropping clothes on the floor and messing up the kitchen. I was queen and empress in my house.
okay.
So I hired help as soon as I was able to do it
Uh-huh.
and got the help that I needed when I could. And also, Bob, you don't have a choice. You do what you have to do to keep the house running, to keep the kids in school, to keep everything happening. I would get up, and this was the 80s primarily. I would get up at 5 in the morning and put on a full face and the shoulder pad outfit and the whole thing, and then feed everybody and help everybody get packed up and then take everybody to daycare and drive the distance from my cheap place out in the suburbs into my office in the Silicon Valley. And I'd get there early because I was a female. And so I did everything I could do to be not just as good as, but better than the guys who I was working with. And in those days, it was not real balanced. There were not many girls in the room. So I'd slide in early and get there and look all calm and everything. And then the men would start coming and going, man, I had a rough time getting to work this morning. Of course, I'd been at it since 5 in the morning and taking care of kids and everything else. But you'd say, oh, hi there, Jeff.
You
Nice to
said
see you.
because you were a female. Explain that.
Explain it. Honey, you're older than me. So you know how it was back in the day. You hired women when you had to. And I should say, okay, I was in the advertising business. So
Right.
my work was in an advertising agency. And one of the reasons I had pretty good work for pretty decent money was because they couldn't find men to do what I did. You were hired based on, it's like being a singer or something. You're hired based on your book, which is the ads that you've done. And
Okay.
so if someone liked that, they weren't hiring you as a person, they were hiring you for your product. That became their product. So
Okay.
advertising was a field where women in the United States, anyway, got a foothold professionally earlier than a lot of other careers because we could do the work as well or better than the men. We didn't have to be strong or tall or tough, although, maybe there was a toughness sort of factor there. And and then particularly when I came to the Silicon Valley, it was interesting because it was all guys and they were geeks, they were nerds. And by the way, I married a nerd,
Okay.
and his pickup line was, try a nerd. You'll never go back. And he was right. And I didn't. And I'm happy to say
That's
33
pretty
years
funny.
later, yeah, love those nerds. But I was very often the only woman in the room, which
Yeah.
you've heard before.
Yeah.
And so that's a very different situation than being a professional man.
So you
And
just felt like you had to show up early, you had to do way better work than your male counterparts in order
but
to get to the same place. And you probably didn't get to the same place money wise.
I did all right.
Did you?
Yeah.
Good for you. All right.
But I'll tell you a little story, which was I was freelancing because my kids were teeny. I became a single mom when they were 2, 3, and 4,
All right.
and ran away from a marriage in North Carolina and came to California with just what we could carry on the train. And so I had to weasel my way into working anywhere. And so I was freelancing as a copywriter.
Okay.
And this one client kept saying, no, we need somebody. Can you come to work for us full time? And I would say, I am a mom. I like you guys. You're great, but I can't promise you an 8-hour day every day. I have little ones. And so finally he said, how about if you write me an ad to replace yourself? Because I need somebody full time. I said, sure, I'll write the ad. And so I sat and started taking down all the information he wanted to put in the ad. And then the salary came out and he told me what the salary was. And I tried hard to look just as cool as I possibly could, but it was more than twice what I had ever made in my life on the
Oh,
East
wow.
Coast. And so, of course, what I said to him was, I really like you guys. You're great. And I've been thinking about it and I'll take the job.
Maybe I can
Okay.
figure out how to make it work.
Yeah. Because all of a sudden there was the money to pay for daycare
Sure.
and the other things that I would need to
Mhm.
do a full-time job. And so I said yes. And it worked out fine. But I didn't know what they were paying, Bob, in the Silicon Valley to do this stuff. And
Right.
and my sister, who's also a nerd, and her husband was a nerd, but she was the one who said to me, okay, you're going to sit down, you're going to learn how to use this Apple II computer. And I said,
Right.
no,
Right.
sorry. And she said, no. And she's my big sister, obviously. She said, no, sit down. You're going to learn how to do this. And
Okay.
so okay. And I sat down and I learned how to use it. So I think I might have been the first person in Silicon Valley to write advertising copy on a computer. And when I carried it into my office, of course, everybody said, what is that? What are you doing? But this was 1980.
Right.
And just, I think we're at a precipice now with AI, like we were then
Yeah.
with digital everything. It was all brand new and nobody understood what it was going to do to business, the disruption factor. We
That's
didn't
really
know.
true. That's really true.
Yeah.
That's really true. I remember during the same period of time, I had been working on Capitol Hill for a congressman, and I got sick of that job and decided I was going to go on my own as a communications company. And my first clients were trade magazine publishers, and they were in New York. And I would have to write my columns, my copy, and I was always on deadline. I had about 30 clients, I think, at the time. And I was doing all this myself. I was writing a monthly column for them about what was going on in Washington that affected that particular line of business, whether it was jewelry or sporting goods or
Mhm.
food or whatever it was. And but I started that business using a manual typewriter,
Yeah.
and and so I was having to copy things, and there was no way to digitally, electronically transmit the columns to the publisher. So what I would do is I would run from my office, which was near the Capitol in Washington, to the train station, which was about 5 or 6 blocks away, and carry the manuscript in an envelope, give it to the conductor with $5 and say, please
Yeah.
give this to the guy that's going to meet you at the train station in New York. And then I would have a publisher send somebody to the train station with another $5 and they'd give it
And
to the
could
guy.
we have imagined, Bob, that magazines wouldn't exist anymore, really?
I know it. That's just an incredible thing. Uh,
And my first job as a journalist was with this legal newspaper in downtown LA, and it was in hot metal. Remember hot metal,
yep,
linotype?
yep,
Yeah. So that's how old we are.
yeah, yeah. I would just say that when President Kennedy was assassinated, I was only 20 years old, roughly 20. I was born in 43. He was assassinated in 63, correct? Yeah. So anyway, I was working for my first job, or my first daily newspaper job, was with a publication called the Jeanette News Dispatch outside of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. And I was the proofreader and a general assignment reporter. And President Kennedy was assassinated. The UPI machines went crazy, ding, ding. And we all ran over, everybody in the newsroom ran over to the machine to see what was going on. And of course, it was the story that President Kennedy had been shot. And so we published a special edition. I ran outside on the street with a bag full of papers and handed them out to people. And that's how a lot of people found out about President Kennedy
Yeah.
getting assassinated. That's
Yes.
something
And
I'll never forget.
here we are in the soon to be former Twitter age, I guess, but the Twitter age where everything is out instantly and reachable
Yeah,
by
yeah,
everyone instantly. And
exactly.
another thing that's strange, I think, in our world now is that none of us really, even the young ones, have the mental capacity to deal with the amount of information that is coming to us all the time,
Well, I think
24/7.
that's true. That's really true. And this new, this artificial intelligence development, and I don't even know what this chat, whatever it is thing that is out there that people are using to write with. I'm really afraid to look at it to see what it means.
It is a bit creepy. Yeah.
It is what?
Creepy a little
Oh,
bit.
creepy. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Talk about creepy. The other night I was watching TV with my wife and I made a comment loudly and I yelled, Jesus, like that. And my watch said, this is what I found on the internet. And it showed me a picture of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I'm going like, holy mac.
That's the world we're living in now.
That's the world we're living in.
Yeah.
You can't even do anything without your watch telling you what to do and what not to do.
And do you notice?
You don't have one.
No.
Uh,
I don't need anybody else talking to me all the time, whether I want them to or not.
oh, I'm addicted to my Apple Watch, I have to say.
Well,
All
people love
right.
them.
Huh? What'd you say?
People love them. No,
Yeah,
not for me. Yeah.
not for you. Not for you. Okay. So when you were raising your kids and you were doing all these different jobs, you told me that it wasn't, you didn't have the conflict at home because you didn't have a husband at home to deal
Right.
with. Nevertheless, you still had to take care of these kids and balance your job along with the responsibilities of taking care of these kids.
And I'll also tell you, and I think most single moms, at least, I can't speak for the dads,
Mhm.
will tell you that almost any career you can think of is easier than raising kids. So for me, the 8 or 10 hours that I spent in an office every day was my relaxation. I had work that I enjoyed for the most
Sure.
part and that
Sure.
was satisfying to a reasonably good degree. And I didn't have to work out in the fields. I didn't have to work in awful circumstances. I had an air conditioned office to work in. So that was the easy part of my day. The tough part is going home to three little people who are looking to you for all these things, everything. But what it meant for me was that my kids were always the team. They learned as very little kids how to clean, how to cook, how to set the table, how to take care of the pets. I didn't do all that. I see parents now doing all that for their kids.
Yeah.
And they are taking their kids to choir and Mandarin and martial arts and all these things that they think their kids need to have to get into the good college and to have a good life. You know what? No. Told my kids early on, actually, I was soccer. They were all in soccer teams. And I sat them down one night and said, okay, how much do you love soccer? And they all went, oh, we don't. Okay, we're done. We're not doing soccer because I couldn't do it.
Right.
All of those things in those days, at least, were designed around a mom being at home and available to be snack mom and drive everywhere mom and all these things.
Yep.
And I wasn't. So I said to them, each one of them, you can have a physical activity and a sort of intellectual activity like music, choose them, but we're not doing this crazy soccer thing. So a couple weeks later, my son came back and said, okay, I've got it. Fencing. I said, what? He said, I want to learn how to fence.
Okay.
What? He said, no, there's a place in downtown San Jose where there are fencing lessons and the girls can come too. And the girls were going, yeah, we want to go too. So all of a sudden now I had three kids who were going to learn how to be fencers at only 2 miles away at the same time every week. I didn't have to do three. And it turns out that the teacher Connie Yu, fabulous woman who's remained a friend. She did just a great job with kids of all ages. We loved the other families that were involved. They tended to be a lot of homeschool families. And it suited the kids fine. And we didn't even realize at the time that what it meant was it did help them get into the colleges of their choice, which I didn't think about. I didn't know enough to know that. But my youngest actually started a fencing team at the college that she wound up in her first 2 years, which was Simon's Rock College of Bard in Massachusetts. When you have to be disciplined about how you manage your kids' lives and how you manage your own life, you can be. And it's a life skill that helps everything, right? I mean, if you just think a lot about it and are careful about how you're using your time and how you're using your kids' time. And my kids were the team. I didn't wait on them. I was not their servant. I was their teacher. And I think that's a thing. If I were in the business of advising parents, and maybe I am in a way, that's what I would say. And I have said to some,
Mhm.
you are not their servant. That's not how you teach a child to be competent in the world. And it doesn't serve you. I don't want to be anybody's servant. That's
Sure.
not a thing I like to do.
It seems to me that based on what you've told me about your kids and what they're doing in their lives and their careers, that must have worked out pretty well.
I think so. First, they're all still speaking to me.
That's a
Um,
good thing.
huge, huge, right? If we get
Absolutely.
a show of hands out there.
Yeah.
And there have been times, my son and I had a couple of really rugged years, but we're all speaking. They are in happy domestic situations for the most part,
Mhm.
except my youngest, we have great conversations about this. And a thing that I would like to share with all sort of moms of school-age kids, when you have your first or second baby, it's the roughest time in most cases in your marriage and your life. You don't know what hard work is. You don't know what fatigue is, and you don't know what negotiation is until you have to deal with a newborn child and a spouse at the same time, and neither one of them, and you aren't good at it either, but nobody knows the drill here, right? You don't know how to be the best mom in the world. And that baby has no clue how to be a human. Got to learn it all. And the partner in the marriage or the relationship has no clue how to participate and be a good partner. Everybody has to relearn all these roles, and it's hard. And I've said to more than one woman, yeah, for me, it was pretty easy because the relationship part I didn't have to do. I just did the kids. I had healthy babies for the most part. One spent some time in hospital for a couple of reasons, and in fact, that scene where you sit by the tent in the hospital with your 5-week-old in there, and the doc has to say to you, 50-50, we don't know. Those are life-changing moments where priorities become so clear, Bob. You get your head straight quick about what matters and what
Yeah,
doesn't.
for sure. Did that happen to you?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And the child is okay, obviously, now.
She is much better than okay.
Okay.
But I sat by her bed and I promised her stuff. I told her that she would have everything, every pony, anything she wanted, and we would have so much fun. And you know what? We have. And I have pretty much tried to give her whatever the heck she wanted. And I've been rewarded by not only a fabulous daughter in both cases, but now I have a fabulous granddaughter, which is the most wonderful gift, of course.
Yeah, there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have to take a quick break here, but when we come back, Lynne's going to talk to us about why she decided to get on this healthy eating bandwagon that led to her writing these books. So stay with us. When did you decide that you needed to get on the healthy eating bandwagon there?
I think I always had an attraction to it because I love to eat
Yeah.
and I really love being healthy. And my mother had not been healthy. She died when I was 18 of a chronic disease.
Okay.
So I think I imprinted really early on, this is a thing you don't want. This is a
Right.
thing that blows families apart. This is a
Right.
thing that makes people sad and unhappy. So whatever you need to do to stay healthy, you need to do. That was always in the background. And I love to eat, and I never had any money as a young person, so I couldn't go out and just get served wonderful food all the time. So I learned how to make it,
Okay.
and cheap and fast.
Okay.
As the kids started coming, when I would slide in home with these little screaming, hungry people, I learned how to put a meal on the table really quick. And that's a life skill I think all of us benefit from when we know it, is how to get her done and
For sure.
not make it crazy and elaborate and bother everyone. Just get it done and have it be good.
Yeah.
And then a lot of friends started saying, wow, Lynne, this is really amazing. You ought to write some of this stuff down. And so my first book was Fast, Cheap, and Skinny. Because, of course, back in those days, we females knew that our stock went up the skinnier we were. That was just the way it was.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't tell me about that book before, so tell me about it.
Oh, it was a fun book that I did with a friend, and it was done in PageMaker. Do you remember PageMaker?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
When PageMaker was brand new, and so we wanted to experiment and see what we could do with it. So I did the illustrations, and I don't have it here to show you, but
Okay.
it was fun and funny. And then I did the 2 books with Deidre Hall, and we did those actually with a friend who did the software part of it, designed them for us. But
Okay.
the first of those books was done in 6 weeks because we could. We
Sure.
now had these tools
Sure.
that, boom, we could put something out. And it was when Facebook was brand new. We could then have this sort of digital marketing
Sure.
element to it.
Right.
But how did I come to write about food? I don't know. I just did. And
Okay.
it seemed like the most natural thing in the world. And now that I'm a grandma, you may notice it, particularly the grandmas in your life, that we punctuate all of our sentences with recipes. You can't talk about anything without saying, yeah, and that's when you make the toast where it just becomes part of who you are and what you do.
Okay.
And the health part of it, and then the health part of it really goes to having been diagnosed as a diabetic. I had gestational diabetes when my kids were born. And
Okay.
so I knew from that point that I had to take care. I had to watch what I was
Right.
doing.
Right.
And the health advice I got was pretty sketchy and not really super helpful. But in those days, they said, keep your weight down. The more you keep your weight down, the better your numbers are going to be. They don't really tell you how because they didn't really know how to
Mhm.
keep your weight down. But
Mhm.
I've learned over the years how other people managed it and how I could manage it. And that I want to pass on to people.
Okay. So that was the genesis for Brownies for Breakfast, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
To do it.
beautifully done book. It really is a beautifully
Thank you.
done book. And I have prepared myself one so far of your recipes, which was peanut butter cookies,
Yay.
mainly because I love cookies.
Everybody loves cookies.
And peanut butter is good. And so I made peanut butter cookies, and they were really good.
Thank you.
So
And can I say, Bob, I I made a really grave mistake in a way, naming
what's that?
it what I did, brownies for breakfast, because there is an assumption that it's all about sweets, and it's not. There are lots of savory recipes in there, soups and stews and main dishes and salads and everything in the
Yeah,
book.
there are.
But for diabetics, I wanted everybody to know that they did not have to give up sweets, that they could have better sweets than ever if they do them the way I tell them.
Mhm.
If you do what I tell you, you'll be
Which
fine,
is
which is no sugar, give up sugar,
so how do
absolutely.
you have sweets if you don't have sugar?
You use allulose is my favorite sugar substitute, which a lot of people don't talk about. What you hear a lot is sugar substitutes are really bad because they don't really get you off of sugar and BS. Sugar substitutes are life-saving, literally. And nowadays there are 2 or 3 that are really good. No side effect, no funny taste. They bake the way they're really, and allulose is one. It's a natural product. It's not a bunch of chemicals. It's something that's not creepy and icky. It looks like sugar. It tastes like sugar. It cooks like sugar. And it does not spike your blood sugar. And it has no calories. So what's not to love?
Right,
There's also
exactly.
hickory root. There's
Where do you find this?
monk fruit. Health food stores are online. Now, we were talking about the digital age. You can go online and buy anything you want
How do you
online.
spell the?
Allulose. Allulose.
Okay, good. You guys write that down. Um,
And in my book, there's a couple of pages about sugar substitutes, which ones to use and which ones are better and which ones aren't. So I recommend that. Also, if you sign up on my website, I will give you free, because I love you and I want you to have it free, a whole little thing about, I'll give you the recipe, first of all, for the brownies, because you need that. And then I'll give you the breakdown of the sugar substitutes, because you need that. And that will be it. No crazy marketing. no buy my class for $300, nothing. Just get the recipe free and the article free if you sign.
Okay, that is cool.
It
That
is
is
cool.
cool. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm proud of you for making the cookies. That's huge.
Well,
But
I
that's
gotta, you
one
know
recipe.
what? I'm having a little bit of a problem here right now because I showed that book to my wife when you first sent it to me, and then I made the cookies, and then she took the book and said, "Well, I'm going to make some things from this book." And before we began doing this show today, I went to look for it, and I don't know what the hell she did with it. So hold it
Obviously,
up
she's
here
a
so
smart
people can
woman.
see it. There we
She's a woman who knows her cookbooks.
go. Yeah,
And you can tell I talk about eggs, among
yeah,
other things.
yeah, yeah. You know what? And the thing is beautifully illustrated. There's beautiful
Donut.
photos. You took a lot of those photos yourself, didn't you?
I took all the pictures of food. I didn't
Yeah.
take the pictures of myself. Oh, peppers, padron peppers, coming
Oh,
in
okay.
season again.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and so easy. The whole thing is just so easy. Um,
Okay.
oh, fruit.
Yeah.
Yes, diabetics, you can eat fruit, and I tell you how. But also, it's not just for diabetics. It's for anybody who wants to eat healthy, especially, oh, we're planting these right now too in our raised beds. Radishes,
Oh, okay. Beautiful.
radishes.
Yeah.
So good. And there's soup recipes in here. Oh, this is one that I look forward to every year when the tomatoes, we grow little tiny tomatoes. Gazpacho, cold soup.
Oh, I love
So
gazpacho.
easy, so delicious. And if you go to a fancy restaurant, you will pay this year even more. You'll pay $15 for a little teeny tiny serving of this stuff.
Sure.
And you can make it for, oh, a small fraction of that
Yeah.
in a blender. And it's so easy. Here's
You know
apron.
what I'm going to have to do is look at your gazpacho recipe. That'll be my next thing because I love gazpacho. That's really good.
Don't you? It's
Oh
just,
yeah,
it's
love it.
absolutely one of the
Yeah.
most wonderful. And yes, of course, I have the obligatory avocado toast recipe
Okay.
because you can't be cool anymore if you don't eat avocado toast.
Oh really? I guess
Yeah.
I'm not cool then.
No, you need to eat some avocado toast, Bob.
Okay. All
Um,
right. Okay.
and
Now,
here's
go
Miss
ahead.
H's pumpkin pancakes. Miss H is my granddaughter.
Oh, okay.
And and one of the secrets of the book is that I use pumpkin a lot instead of flour.
Okay.
Um,
That's
so
interesting. I didn't know
yeah,
you could do that.
yes, you can do it
That's
because
interesting.
I did this book. You can do it.
Okay. You know what? In our last discussion that we did, and I urge you guys, if you didn't check it out, you should. Just go back, go up to podcast.leantotheleft.net and check out the thumbnails of the different shows, and you'll find the show that Lynn and I did a couple months ago.
We were fabulous, weren't we?
And it was a really interesting discussion. We talked about our book, of course, but we also talked about tons of other stuff. And which is why I invited her back because I wanted to do something focused on Mother's Day. But she was such a kick to talk to that, and also she didn't give me a hard time because there are certain things that I like that I told her about that are not particularly wonderful, like a daily dose of ice cream. And she shakes her
What?
head.
You're lucky I'm so old, I have a poor memory, so I have no idea what we talked about before, and I hope we're not repeating ourselves too badly.
No, we're not. No, we're
Okay.
not. Not at all. But I do want to ask you this. You mentioned in that discussion that food companies are designing their products specifically to encourage overconsumption. Talk about
Absolutely.
that a little bit. Explain that a little bit, because I think
Well,
people will be concerned about that.
it's the craveability industry, and these are the guys in buildings in New Jersey who figure out what to put in food so that you will be addicted. And when I say addicted, I don't mean it metaphorically. These foods are addictive,
Hmm.
and you can eat a ton of them and keep eating them because they're chemically designed to not satiate you, to not have you feel full when you eat them, and to want more and more. And the way they do that is they put a lot of sugar and salt and fat in them and absolutely no nutrition. They are worthless as foods.
Have you got any
And yes, you
examples?
hear me talking about you Doritos and those things. Anything in a bag or a box with a whole bunch of ingredients in it
Mm.
is designed to make money for the people making it. It's not designed to fill you up or make you healthy or make you happy. It's designed so that you cannot literally stop eating it. So you keep buying more. And it's placed in the grocery store so that you won't miss it, so that you'll grab it, so that your kids will grab it.
Mhm.
So you are the unhappy and unfortunate dupe of the food industry, big food, we like to call it, who are using you to increase their ROI, their bottom line, their shareholder value is coming right off of your bones and muscles. And if that sounds rude, sorry, I think it is rude. I think it's close to murder. And so I'm out here talking all the time about read the label, first of all, know what you're eating, read that label. And if you can still convince yourself or someone else at your table that that is good food to eat, okay,
Yeah. Okay. Hey, you want to talk a little politics?
let's.
Okay. What do you think about the spate of bills that are being considered in various states to restrict abortions and ban books and legislate against the BTQ plus community? What do you think about all that?
What do you think I'd think? It's murder. It is literally murder. When you remove a person's ability to manage their own health care, in the case, for example, of a woman who is carrying a non-viable pregnancy, an ectopic pregnancy, you are literally killing that person. That person may survive, but in many cases, they won't. What do we think we're doing here?
Is there legitimacy to the idea that the people that are pushing these kinds of restrictive bills that they really care nothing about the child once it is born? It's make
Oh,
sure that it's born, and then that's the end of it.
absolutely. All you have to do is look at the data, and that becomes an icky word for some people, but I'm sorry. If you look at the number of children that die every year from gunshot wounds, from avoidable illness,
Mm-hmm.
from accidents, from automobile accidents, if you want to keep a child alive, work on those things. I can't, it's hard for me to not get a little hot under the collar. And of course, I come from a time when I was in high school and began college, women had to go to Mexico to get abortions or go to a provider who was not legal. So I saw friends die as a result of pregnancies. And then, of course, as time goes on, we become aware of now, again, women are dying because of pregnancies, not just because of seeking an abortion that isn't legal, but because they cannot get health care from doctors who are terrified that they'll be against the law, they'll be arrested because there's confusion too, that the laws aren't clear that are being, and it's not, how can anyone defend that it's about a baby when it's not. It's about controlling women. It's about controlling women. And I say women because there are a small number of exceptions, people who don't identify as female who can be pregnant, but for the most part, we're absolutely in Margaret Atwood land.
I see what you're saying, and I agree with you. I just think that it's a horrible thing what they were trying to attempt. And I'm sorry, if you look at the people that are behind this legislation, typically you're talking about men.
Yeah.
Just let me tell you this, here in South Carolina, there's a bill that would ban abortion in almost every instance, I think after 6 weeks. And that bill is currently before the state legislature, which is run by Republicans. But there were 3 Republican female members of the state Senate who, along with 2 Democratic female members of the state Senate, got together and blocked this bill from moving forward. And one of the Republican women called out the sponsors and said, "We're the only ones who have ever had any," I forget the exact wordage that she used, but basically, we're the only ones that have ever had kids. We're the only ones that know what this is all about. And you guys are trying to control us and put us in this position. And that
Kill.
happened here in South Carolina, in a red state. So I thought
Right.
that was a positive thing when I read that this morning. They
And
stuck up and
we'll
did that.
see what happens as time goes on. And the don't say gay stuff. Anyone who's ever had a gay child or a trans child, you realize that this is part of the human condition. This is part of being human.
Exactly.
And anyone who says otherwise just
Exactly.
doesn't know the facts.
Exactly.
I mean,
I raised
remember,
I raised a gay son, and I know what this kid went through and still goes through. The guy's 50 years old now, and he's still having to deal with a lot of the crap that
oh, you bet.
is thrown his way because of that. And it's just it's an
I
incredible
can
thing.
still remember my daughter, middle child, coming home from her first year of college with a textbook about human sexuality, and the 2 of us upstairs in her room looking through this thing. And we were both stunned at the time to learn the number of humans who are born every year, every day, with undefinable gender,
Mhm.
with this whole range of different genitalia
Mhm.
that are not clearly definable as male or female.
Mhm.
And it's not just a third way, it's this whole range of ways.
Yeah.
And once you have seen how the human body actually functions and seen how people are actually born, how can you try to deny that is the truth?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
the truth.
all this is going on, we have an ex-president that's on trial right now for rape
Yeah,
a writer in a freaking
yes.
dressing room.
She actually was someone that I read a great deal and enjoyed reading. She's
Mhm.
hilarious as a writer,
Mhm.
smart gal, and she's being a hero as she does this because we all know that the chances of everyone saying, yes, she's right. No, she knew she was going to get up there and have a huge contingent of people going, she's lying. She's only doing this for this reason or that reason. You
Right.
got to be a tough broad
Yeah.
to allow yourself to go up in what is a
Yeah.
internationally advertised trial and tell your truth and know that you are going to be shot at and
Absolutely.
belittled.
Absolutely. And now this guy is wants to be president again, and he's
Forever. Uh-huh.
for yeah, yeah, forever.
just
for
like his
sure.
friend in China, and his
Yeah,
other friend in Russia,
yeah. So, what do you think about the Republican sweepstakes? Do you think that DeSantis has got anything going for him, or you think Trump is just going to be the ultimate nominee? What do you think?
I don't think DeSantis has anything going for him. How smart can you be to attack Mickey Mouse?
Yeah, how brilliant is that, right?
What? And
Yeah,
actually, he's probably a semi-bright guy, but he's utterly charmless. And
there's a explanation.
yeah,
Utterly charmless. For
yeah.
yeah,
Even Trump, give him credit. He's a serial seducer. I mean, he knows how to be charming when he has to be charming, and then it doesn't last, of course.
yeah,
Um, but DeSantis doesn't even have that ability,
yeah, no, he's
and
disgusting, I think.
I don't see him impressing a lot of people that need to
Yeah,
be impressed with his ability.
no,
And I think that there is this huge sort of not mouthy but important, and it used to be called the silent majority for a lot of the wrong reasons, but
mm,
there are many of us who see that we need some real competence and some real brains. And I want to ask you about this teamwork. You don't see people running for office talking about teamwork, really. But
mm,
when you think about what it takes to be president of the United States in a competent way, what
mm,
it means is you are managing an enormous, powerful team of people, and you better be able to do it well.
yeah,
And
for sure.
what we've had and experienced in from the Republican Party is the mafioso model.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
And
so what about Joe? Do you think that he
I
should
think
be running again, or what do you think?
I think he gets very competent, intelligent people around him. Look
Yeah,
who he's brought in.
yeah,
Look who his cabinet is.
hmm,
So, good chief executive builds a team, builds a great team.
yeah,
And judging him on that, I would say that Joe has been
yeah.
spectacular.
I've been a
Yes,
little bit disappointed with. I didn't think he gave Kamala Harris enough substantive stuff to work on.
no. And Kamala is not everybody's cup of tea. She's a tough cookie and a brilliant woman, extremely competent, but I don't know. It's a sort of a telegenic quality that she doesn't have that some other public figures have.
Mm,
And I would hope that she gets some good coaching in that regard because she can certainly do the job.
yeah,
She's a smart cook
yeah,
and has great experience.
yeah.
But I had to laugh, when she was running. What did they bring up? She slept with Willie Brown. Uh-huh. And
Okay,
your
really?
point,
That's what they bring up?
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
It's astonishing to me what they can still say about women in this game.
yeah,
But I think that if you look at Joe's team, who he brought in, it's a bunch of amazing. For example, the guy out of Louisiana whose name I always struggle to remember, Mitch Landrieu. He's not out there on the front page. So this is a brilliant, fabulous guy
yeah.
who is one of the people up there with Joe making things happen, and Pete Buttigieg, and
The same with Pete Buttigieg.
yeah, brilliant,
Brilliant guy, absolutely brilliant.
fabulous man.
Yeah, yeah,
And these people also bring a broader scope of who Americans really are and what
yeah.
we really need to do.
You know what? I have to give Biden credit for bringing in Pete because Mayor Pete, because actually he brought in a guy and gave a platform to who could end up running against him at some point. Now he's not,
And
but that could have been the case, right?
yeah, could have
And
been the case.
he had the balls to bring him in and put him in that
But
position.
but the best CEOs always bring people in who can replace them.
That's right.
That's what you do, as opposed to the Republican model, which is only bring people in who you think won't kill you
Yeah.
for
All
for
right.
very
Well, With that, Lynn, this has been the fastest hour I've done in a long time.
We'll have to do some more.
I want to thank you for being with us and for sharing your insight. And I just
Made my
enjoyed
day.
it thoroughly. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this. And by all means, pick up her Brownies for Breakfast book. It's just a wonderful book. It's beautiful. It really is. You just enjoy having it.
Okay.
But there's good stuff in there. And my next thing is gazpacho. I'm going to give that a shot. Okay.
And I hope your listeners will send questions in for Bob and the snarky granny. Okay. And then next time we can answer questions.
That's a good idea. Yeah. So send in your questions and send them to Bob at leantotheleft.net. And Lynn and I will address them the next time we get together.
You bet.
Okay, guys, thanks for hanging with us. We need to take a quick break here, but I'll be right back with some closing comments in just a second. Hey, guys, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you'll come back on a regular basis and check out our interviews with guests on topics that I hope you find interesting, entertaining, and enlightening. Our episodes stream weekly, every Monday. Let your friends know about this podcast and take a minute to subscribe. Just go to podcast.leantotheleft.net to subscribe, check out the upcoming interview schedule, and listen to all of our episodes. And follow us on social media. Facebook at the Lean to the Left Podcast, Twitter at Lean to the Left 1, Instagram at BobGaddy_Lean to the Left, and TikTok at Lean to the Left. And you can watch the episodes at YouTube at Lean to the Left. And don't forget to visit our blog site, leantotheleft.net, where you'll find commentary on the news by some excellent writers with progressive perspectives on a whole range of topics. You can sign up as a member there, and of course, it's all free. Now, this is Bob Gaddy signing off for Lean to the Left. Thanks for sharing your time.